I did not do anything illegal. Bob Gale did something illegal.
Crispin asked for some things that were pretty ridiculous for an actor in his position in the industry.
Bob Gale, he lies about things.
What happens when an iconic actor's likeness is used without permission? Crispin Glover's battle over his portrayal in Back to the Future Part 2 reveals a rarely told Hollywood conflict that questions creativity, legality, and respect for performers. This isn't just about a movie sequel, it's about who owns an actor's image and what happens when boundaries are crossed. The story behind this legal fight uncovers surprising demands, secret molds, and a case that changed industry rules forever. The lawsuit that shook Hollywood. Crispin Glover's legal battle over Back to the Future Part 2 stands as one of Hollywood's most unusual and controversial disputes. At the heart of this conflict was Glover's claim that the filmmakers used his likeness without permission, an allegation that went beyond typical casting disagreements. This lawsuit challenged long-standing industry practices and raised difficult questions about actors' rights and creative control. What makes the case even more remarkable is the way it mixed legal, ethical, and artistic issues in a way few others have. Glover alleged that the producers took a mold of his face from the original film's old-age makeup and applied it to prosthetics worn by a different actor. In the sequel, this wasn't simply about another actor playing the same character, it was about a direct replication of Glover's physical identity without his consent. To many, this blurred the line between performance and unauthorized replication, creating a legal gray area the industry had seldom confronted. It sparked fierce debate over who truly owns an actor's image. The filmmakers argued that their use of previously filmed footage and prosthetic makeup was permitted under existing agreements, painting the legal battle as something less than a violation. They insisted that contracts allowed them to continue using Glover's character and likeness in certain ways, and that the use of another actor was a common filmmaking technique, especially when an original actor declines participation. The line, however, was drawn sharply by Glover over the mold-based prosthetic, which he saw as a clear breach of his rights. This conflict ignited a legal struggle that delved deeply into copyright law, personality rights, and the ethics of film production. It exposed tensions between creative storytelling and individual ownership that hadn't been fully addressed in Hollywood standards. For actors especially, the case underscored vulnerabilities regarding how their work and image might be manipulated beyond their control. This was a spotlight on a frequently overlooked aspect of the entertainment business. Details of the settlement remain private, but reports suggest Glover received a significant sum, reflecting the seriousness of his claims. Even so, the settlement didn't erase the personal and professional fallout he experienced. The case left scars and fueled lingering resentments between Glover and some involved in the production beyond money. The lawsuit became a statement about autonomy and respect in the industry. Over time, Glover has emphasized that his intent was not just financial, but to clarify for audiences that the performance in the sequel was not his. He disapproved of how another actor portrayed the character using his facial likeness. His frustration was rooted in the association of poor acting with himself due to this unauthorized usage, something he described as deeply damaging. This highlights how the dispute was as much about creative identity as legal rights. The lawsuit's ripple effect extended beyond the courtroom. It triggered conversations about the need for clearer protections for actors in regard to their image and performances. Until then, many aspects of likeness usage had existed in a legal gray zone, often reliant on vague contract terms or industry customs. Glover's case forced studios and unions to examine updating their policies with the new realities of technology in mind. Ultimately, this landmark case redefined how the entertainment industry views and safeguards actor likenesses. It became a cautionary tale for filmmakers and performers alike about the importance of consent and respect in storytelling. And though it arose from a dispute over a cult classic sequel, Its influence has reached far into the way films are made today. What shaped the man at the center of this iconic conflict helps explain why this fight became so personal and fierce. Crispin Glover's early career, before the Back to the Future controversy, Crispin Glover was already crafting a unique identity within Hollywood's landscape. Beginning his career in the early 1980s, Glover distinguished himself with an avant-garde style and intense, sometimes eccentric performances that defied mainstream norms. He often portrayed strange, quirky characters, which earned him both critical attention and a dedicated following. His work reflected a willingness to challenge conventional acting methods. His breakthrough came when he was cast as George McFly, the nervous and awkward father of Marty McFly. In the 1985 blockbuster Back to the Future, Glover's portrayal was instantly memorable, thanks in part to his distinctive vocal quirks and odd mannerisms that brought depth and nuance to what could have been a one-dimensional role. His interpretation gave life to a character many viewers came to love, embedding him in pop culture history. Glover's approach to acting involved carefully crafted gestures and speech patterns, which set him apart from other performers of the era. Friends and colleagues noted his habitual thoughtfulness and sometimes unusual behavior on set, reflecting a mind that perceived the world differently. For instance, there's a famous anecdote about him wielding a broom in character as an expression of a sweep of indignation, the kind of detail that illustrates his commitment to embodying George McFly fully. Despite his unique style, Glover was respected for the authenticity and depth he brought to his roles. Behind the scenes, however, his artistic temperament occasionally caused tensions, especially when he expressed strong opinions about scripts or character motivations. This was evident during early discussions for Back to the Future's sequel, when Glover voiced reservations about certain story elements, particularly those involving the film's moral message. He was not in favor of the opinion that money was the reward given to the characters in the story, and he rather believed that love was the only thing worth showing. This viewpoint exposed a reflective idealism that was in stark contrast with the commercial concerns of Hollywood, and at the same time foreshadowed future disputes with the production team. Glover's refusal to compromise on artistic principles made him a person who was both steadfast and tough to deal with. All the same, his input on the original movie made him a primary contributor to its success. Back to the Future changed the whole cultural scene, and Glover's George McFly was a character people would not forget easily in that setting. His participation made the story emotionally strong by providing a father figure who could be easily related to and who was caught amidst the turbulent time travel. Apart from this iconic part, Glover's career was marked by his selective but passionate choice of projects, which often led him to non-mainstream or challenging roles rather than big hits. This further confirmed his dedication to personal art over commercial appeal. The quality of his performance was the main reason why his image and work were so important to him. The story of Glover's early career helps to understand why the decision to use another actor to imitate him in the sequel was not merely a casting decision, but a huge transgression from his perspective. With that legacy in mind, it's important to see how Back to the Future exploded onto the scene and created expectations that heightened the stakes behind this dispute. Back to the Future's success. When Back to the Future premiered in 1985, it quickly became an instant sensation that defined a generation of cinema. The film captivated audiences with its clever script, charismatic performances, and imaginative time travel concept. It topped the box office for 11 consecutive weeks and ended up as the highest-grossing movie of the year. Its success was not only financial, but cultural, resonating far beyond typical summer blockbusters. Critics and viewers alike praised the film's special effects, witty dialogue, and the chemistry among its principal cast. Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd became household names, while Crispin Glover's quirky but heartfelt performance as George McFly added memorable depth. The movie's catchphrases and scenes wove themselves into the fabric of popular culture, ensuring its place as a beloved classic. Its overwhelming popularity spurred immediate talk of a sequel, with producers eager to extend the adventures of Marty McFly and Doc Brown. Writers Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale quickly moved forward to develop the next chapter, confident they could recapture or even surpass the original's success. The anticipation around the sequel was intense, promising fans more thrills and clever storytelling. Most of the original cast signed on easily. Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd agreed to return without hesitation, and other actors like Leah Thompson and Thomas F. Wilson were on board as well. Their participation ensured continuity and excitement for the audience. Yet among them, Crispin Glover's involvement quickly became complicated. Negotiations with Glover stalled, his representatives reportedly making demands that studio producers found unusual or excessive for his role. According to writer Bob Gale, Glover sought the same compensation as Michael J. Fox, approximately $2 million, along with script approval, a demand considered unreasonable. While Gale dismissed these as ridiculous, Glover has denied asking for such amounts, saying offers made were less than what other supporting actors received. This impasse forced the filmmakers to rethink how they would include George McFly in the sequel's Tornividi story. The creative team devised workarounds, such as using previously filmed footage of Glover from the first movie for certain scenes. To portray new moments, they cast actor Jeffrey Weissman, wearing prosthetics designed to resemble Glover's face, often filming him from behind or obscuring his features to reduce recognition. Though these measures solved practical problems, the substitution was uncomfortable for many. Glover viewed the use of his facial mold and the blending of his original footage with Weissman's performance as a direct infringement on his persona. This conflict would soon escalate to a legal confrontation that reverberated throughout Hollywood. The film itself succeeded, becoming another hit that cemented the franchise's legacy. But behind the scenes, tensions simmered, fueled by deeper questions about rights, respect, and creative control, issues that would not be resolved quietly. Understanding Back to the Future's triumph and the pressures following, that success helps explain why the dispute over Glover's participation became so significant to everyone involved. Negotiations for sequel participation. When plans for Back to the Future Part 2 were underway, securing the return of the original cast seemed straightforward. Everyone except Crispin Glover. While Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, and Thomas F. Wilson signed on quickly, Glover's involvement became a sticking point. Reports from writer-producer Bob Gale suggest that Glover demanded an amount equal to Fox's, roughly $2 million, as well as script approval. Gale described these demands as excessive, leading to a breakdown in negotiations that would leave Glover out of the sequel. However, Glover has disputed this account, explaining that the offers he received were significantly lower than those extended to other key cast members. He insists he wanted to be a part of the film, but that the studio's proposal was unfair. This conflicting narrative highlights the tension between perception and reality in Hollywood contract talks, especially when personalities and principles collide. Glover's artistic integrity and refusal to simply accept the status quo made the talks more complex than typical casting decisions. Beyond money, Glover's creative concerns also played a role. He voiced dissatisfaction with the script's message, particularly objecting to the idea that the film's conclusion rewarded characters with wealth. To him, implying that money equaled happiness cheapened the story's theme and compromised its moral foundation. This principled stance contributed to his reluctance to fully engage with the sequel's development, emphasizing his unique approach as an actor focused on meaning over commercial appeal. The failure to reach an agreement forced the production team to find alternative ways to include George McFly in the story. Writer and director Robert Zemeckis and Gale devised a workaround that involved repurposing footage of Glover from the original film for certain scenes. New material featuring the character would be performed by another actor, outfitted with prosthetic makeup, designed to resemble Glover's features, shot in ways intended to obscure full recognition. This solution seemed a practical fix, but sowed the seeds for the ensuing controversy. Glover's absence on set and subsequent marginalization fueled frustrations that would explode into legal conflict. From his perspective, the attempts to replicate him without his consent crossed a line, turning a creative workaround into a question of rights and personal dignity. This clash between business pragmatism and individual artistry set the stage for what became a landmark dispute in entertainment law. It showcased how contracts and ethics can collide in unpredictable ways. The conversation that was going on between Glover's team and the studio became highly contentious with time. The misunderstanding, accusations, and a slowly growing divide between the parties were all made clear through public statements. Glover's insistence on knowing every detail about the situation was in direct conflict with the studio's desire to control the situation with silence. The negative consequence would not only be financial, but also reputational, leading to the very hinge of conversations across the industry. However, the production continued with the tension in the air, which is a good indicator of the high stakes that were in the making of the blockbuster sequel. The film's tight schedule was affected, and costs increased with every delay or dispute. The drama that went on behind the scenes was just a reflection of the struggle for the control of one of the most recognizable stories and characters in cinema, and it turned Glover's part into a flashpoint for deeper issues concerning image and ownership. The whole thing, with the negotiations not being so clear, hinted about a change in Hollywood, that actors would be looking for control over their likenesses to be used more and more, thus ready for the upcoming changes that would make unauthorized duplications easier. Glover's unwavering attitude marked a gradual increase in the awareness of personal rights in the entertainment business, albeit at a cost to his career. His fight was not only for money, but also the acknowledgement of respect. The disagreement that had been going on for quite a while between the parties ultimately turned into drastic creative compromises and a lawsuit that would be heard even outside the Back to the Future franchise. The use of a molded likeness to substitute for Glover became the focal point for this unprecedented legal battle. Using a molded likeness. The creative solution to replace Crispin Glover's physical presence in Back to the Future. Part 2 pushed filmmaking innovation into legally uncharted territory. The production took a life-cast mold of Glover's face, originally made for the old-age makeup from the first film, and used it to fabricate prosthetics worn by actor Jeffrey Weissman. This method aimed to simulate Glover's appearance with high accuracy, blending illusion and reality to maintain character continuity. This approach, however, raised profound ethical and legal questions. Unlike simply casting a different actor, using Glover's exact facial mold meant replicating his unique physical identity without his permission. Glover argued that the filmmakers did not own his face, and therefore employing his likeness in this way amounted to copyright infringement and misappropriation. The production's blending of previously filmed footage of Glover with Weissman's performance further blurred boundaries between original and imitation. For Glover, this wasn't a mere case of recasting. It was a violation of his personal rights. He contended that had they simply hired another actor without using his facial features, the practice would have been legally and morally acceptable. The prosthetic-based substitution crossed a critical threshold, triggering a lawsuit that challenged how much control actors maintain over their image in the film industry. It was a battle over identity as much as performance. The film's producers defended their actions by pointing to studio permissions and common industry practices. They maintained they had legal clearance to use footage from the first movie and to have another actor resemble Glover. Practices they argued were routine and covered under existing contracts. Universal's legal department reportedly confirmed these permissions, underscoring the complexity of image rights agreements. Yet, the use of the mold remained a contested detail often glossed over by defenders. This legal gray area around facial molds exposed gaps in entertainment law, a lack of clear precedent regarding the replication of an actor's likeness beyond the original performance. Glover's case exposed a vulnerability faced by performers amid advancing special effects technology that can blur lines between reality and fabrication on screen. It anticipated future debates around digital recreation and cloning of actors' appearances. The prosthetic solution also created public confusion. Many viewers assumed Glover himself appeared in the sequel, an association that frustrated him deeply. He felt compelled to clarify that he did not perform in Part 2 and disapproved of the imitation actor's portrayal, which he described as inferior. This misattribution contributed to his legal and artistic grievances, compounding the sense of personal violation. This situation also highlighted an ethical dilemma for filmmakers balancing practical challenges and respect for creative contributors. The pressures to deliver a seamless sequel in a high-profile franchise collided with considerations of fairness and consent. The choice to employ the mold rather than recast transparently became a symbol of disregard for an actor's identity. Rights? The controversy surrounding this technique sent ripples throughout Hollywood, calling attention to the necessity for improved protections and clearer standards. Glover's lawsuit catalyzed change, prompting unions like the Screen Actors Guild to strengthen safeguards around use of actors' likenesses and performances. It marked an important moment in redefining the rights performers hold over their image in an era of technical possibility. This critical episode serves as a reminder that behind the magic of movie making, real people's identities are at stake, and negotiating that terrain requires care, respect, and evolving legal frameworks. The next chapter in this saga unpacks the courtroom confrontation that followed and how it reshaped industry policies. Legal arguments and settlement. Crispin Glover's lawsuit against the Back to the Future production centered on deeply complex legal and ethical issues about the use of an actor's likeness. At its core was the question, who owns an actor's image once it has been captured on film? Glover asserted that while the studios owned the character, George McFly, they did not own his physical identity or facial likeness. This distinction formed the basis for his claim of copyright infringement and violation of personality rights. The lawsuit specifically targeted the use of the mold of Glover's face, arguing that the production unlawfully created prosthetic makeup from this mold and applied it to another actor. Without his consent, Glover's legal team claimed this constituted an unauthorized and deceptive use of his likeness, effectively making audiences believe he performed in the sequel when he did not. This raised troubling questions about identity rights and whether an actor's physical features can be protected separately from their on-screen character. The defense argued that they had permission to use original footage of Glover from the first film, and that employing a stand-in with prosthetics was a legitimate filmmaking technique. Universal Pictures stated that their legal department had cleared the use of Glover's image and the substitution of Jeffrey Weissman, the actor who wore the prosthetic mask. They contended that such practices were common and within their contractual rights. This disagreement revealed the murky boundaries between contractual permissions and personal rights over one's own appearance. As the case progressed, both parties faced questions around evolving intellectual property law and how it applies to performers' images. It highlighted a growing need for clearer regulations around digital and physical replication of actors. At the time, the law had not fully caught up with advances in special effects and prosthetic technology, leaving performers vulnerable to unwanted use of their likeness. Glover's lawsuit became a landmark moment in confronting these gaps. The settlement terms were never publicly disclosed, but reports suggest that Glover received a substantial sum, around $760,000. Despite this financial resolution, Glover has expressed that his primary goal was not monetary, but to clarify that he did not perform in the sequel. He wanted to dissociate himself from what he called bad acting, attributed wrongly to him because of the stand-in's portrayal. which he believed misrepresented his artistic standards. The settlement did not yet heal Glover's personal and professional wounds. He portrayed the situation as harmful to his image and frustrating to his creativity. The whole case revealed the high emotional and artistic costs that legal struggles could provoke, especially when dealing with issues like identity and legacy. Glover's constant insistence on talking and sharing about this issue throughout the years is like a reminder of his dedication to protecting artistic integrity. In addition, the dispute acted like a domino for the whole industry and opened discussions on the need to reform performers' contracts and union protections. It led to talking on how to protect actors against unauthorized copying and the misuse of their likeness. The case started alterations that affected future contracts and made more people aware of their rights in the face of changing technology. The legal battle took a long time to end, but its effects were felt far and wide. It actually became a driving force that compelled the Screen Actors Guild, along with other industry players, to check their policies and make sure that actors will have more say on the matter of their likenesses being used in the future. Glover's fight opened the door for clearer definitions of the line separating artistic contributions and corporate ownership. The repositioning of rights was a new dawn for artists, thus showing how significantly Hollywood's power structure still depends on technology and legal rulings. From these legal ripples, the industry's response took shape through formal changes and protective measures, reshaping how actor likenesses are guarded today. Industry impact and SAG changes. The aftermath of Crispin Glover's lawsuit triggered lasting changes within Hollywood's labor and production frameworks, particularly through the intervention of the Screen Actors Guild. His case exposed serious vulnerabilities actors faced regarding image rights and unauthorized use of their likenesses. In response, the SAG undertook efforts to strengthen protections that would prevent similar incidents from happening again. One significant outcome was the implementation of clearer rules limiting studios' ability to replicate or modify an actor's image without explicit consent. These safeguards extended beyond simple contract language, addressing the realities of emerging technologies that could reproduce likenesses digitally or physically. The Guild's updated policies emphasized performers' personal rights and consent as central pillars in negotiations regarding their image. Glover has spoken publicly about his pride in these advancements, crediting the lawsuit with forcing the industry to confront uncomfortable questions about ownership and ethics. His challenge transformed into a broader victory for performers, ensuring that producers think twice before employing controversial tactics, like casting lookalikes with the use of molds or digital effects. The changes marked a fundamental shift in how respect for individual identity is maintained in entertainment. This new framework also paved the way for protections in the era of CGI and deepfake technology. Anticipating controversies that would emerge decades later, studios and unions now navigate these issues with greater caution, mindful of the legal and reputational consequences of misusing an actor's likeness. These rules have become a critical element in contracts, helping maintain trust between artists and filmmakers. The strengthened protections also emboldened performers to assert their image rights more confidently, knowing that there was institutional backing against potential exploitation. The evolving standards contributed to a growing emphasis on consent and collaboration, balancing creative freedom with personal dignity. Actors gained a clearer voice in how their image could be used in future projects, ensuring their legacy remained intact. Beyond contract law, Glover's case sparked public conversations about identity and image in media. It challenged assumptions about who owns a performance and how far studios can go in recreating or manipulating an actor's presence. These cultural reverberations continue to influence debates around digital resurrection and rights in a hyper-connected media landscape. Hollywood's response to Glover's lawsuit helped set a precedent that now guides not only film, but advertising, gaming, and other industries involving personal likenesses. It underscored the importance of ethical standards alongside legal compliance, reinforcing respect as a core value. This legacy shows how one actor's stand can translate into widespread systemic change. The industry's adoption of these protections demonstrates a recognition that technological advances require fresh thinking and safeguards that keep pace with innovation. Glover's struggle highlighted that progress in storytelling tools must go hand in hand with honoring the artists who breathe life into characters. As the entertainment world continues to evolve, the impact of Glover's fight endures, reminding us that behind every image is a person whose rights deserve protection and respect. The next chapter will reflect on how these events affected Crispin Glover personally and how his story continues to resonate within Hollywood today. Lasting effects and personal reflections. The legal dispute over Back to the Future. Part 2 left lasting effects on Crispin Glover, both personally and professionally. Beyond the settlement and industry shifts, Glover has spoken about the emotional toll it took. Feeling misrepresented, he saw the lawsuit not merely as a legal matter, but as a defense of his artistic identity and dignity. A fight to be seen truthfully, his main goal was to correct the record. Glover wanted audiences to know that the George McFly performance in the sequel wasn't his. He disagreed with the stand-in's portrayal and felt the misattribution damaged his reputation and confused fans. The lawsuit became his way of reclaiming creative ownership and separating himself from a version of his character he never approved. The experience left deep scars. While Glover cherished his time on the first film, the sequel's controversy tainted those memories, breaking trust with the production team. It revealed how even beloved projects can fracture under ethical and legal strain. Critics have labeled him difficult, but Glover remains unapologetic, arguing that protecting one's likeness and creative work is essential. He's expressed frustration at those who dismiss his stance as greed, insisting it was about integrity, not ego. Today, many see Glover's battle as ahead of its time. His case foreshadowed modern debates over deepfakes, digital doubles, and AI-generated likenesses. The issues he raised, once niche, are now central to Hollywood's conversations about consent and control. Though the conflict overshadowed his role, Glover still takes pride in the original Back to the Future and his connection with fans. He's described the lawsuit as a necessary but unfortunate chapter, not a reflection of his feelings toward acting itself. His stand led to stronger protections for performers' image rights, reshaping consent standards across the film industry. Glover's courage in challenging powerful studios set a precedent for fairness and respect in entertainment, one that continues to shape the industry as technology evolves. Crispin Glover's lawsuit not only changed Hollywood, but also reshaped how actors protect their image and legacy. His story shows the importance of respecting artistic integrity and the power of standing up for personal rights. If you found this story insightful, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's hidden legal battles.